All right, hi, how's it going? My name is James. I'm talking about the Enneagram. Today we're going to talk about Enneagram type 3. And again, I talk about the Enneagram, I discuss this and teach it from a traditional standpoint. I don't just go for the I don't just go for the superficial, low hanging fruit, first Google search result. I study this as an occult system and I go back through history and I look at where it all started and I track it, over the decades through different authors. All right, so type 3, Ichazo called this the displayer. All right, so we're going to talk about the ego X and the over X for the 3. These are the simplest way to understand the fixation. Ego go, okay? Go as an action. This is somebody who is action oriented and it's an ego that wants to be in motion and wants to do and wants to be a taskmaster. Ego go, again, it's kind of a funny verbiage there, but you have to realize that this was taken from originally probably from Spanish, I would think, and so there are translation issues and there's some inference needed to figure out what is meant by all of this. All right, so ego go, and there's also the over X, which is what is being overdone, over projected, over exerted, overvalued. The over X for the 3 is over efficiency. Okay. So the name is the displayer. They are the over efficiency. They focus on over efficiency. And ego go, of course. And we can also throw in there the capital sin or vice of vanity, also known as deception or deceit. So these core features are enough to unpack the type 3. Okay. So what does the vanity refer to here? Vanity is a false self, the false self, narcissism in terms of coming up with lies about where your value resides. Okay, so the type 3, due to their ego go and over efficiency, they value shift from deeper value that they would have, which they feel empty about, to value in their actions, value in their efficiency, value in their product. Okay, so this is value in the ego. The ego, in some ways, they're the ultimate ego type because ego go means they're so driven by action and production and embodiment rather than the deeper inner self. Okay, so, and what does efficient mean? Efficient literally means doing it quickly, but this term is also quite general and means doing it well. Often they want it to look good. Efficient is really pretty all-encompassing. Okay, so this is somebody who wants to do things in a way that is quick, it looks good, it's effective. They kind of want to do it all in a way. That's the nature of this egocentric personality fixation. The 3 is very focused on just doing it all. They want to have it all, they want to be it all, they want to look perfect. That is where their ego is in terms of their vanity, in terms of their efficiency, and the go action aspect of wanting to embody great things, great results. It's very much a selling out of the self. And you can see how this is all explained from Ichazo early on. Back in the 50s, this was already determined and set up. So what we're looking at from later authors is actually just kind of derivations, new interpretations, stuff that they came up with over time, and it relates, but partly they were just trying to come up with different ways of explaining the same thing, same underlying fixation and type. So let's talk about some later theory and how this ties into later theory. First of all, let's talk about the fact that they are considered an assertive type. Okay, we have the triads, assertive, withdrawn, and compliant from Riso and Hudson. Um, the three, you can see why they're in the assertive triad. With a focus on efficiency, that's action-oriented, that is about results. It makes sense that there be an assertive component to that. They're called the displayer, so they're about putting things out there. We talked about vanity and deception. The three focuses on display. It's about what you see. And very much so, it's about the assertiveness of images and the assertiveness of what other people see and what resonates in our perceptions as valuable or as standing in for the person. It's your results, basically. So the threes tend to focus completely, over focus on objective, measurable, goals being realized, what's being done, what they have to show for who they are, because really they feel pretty empty inside. These are compensations. These are what we replace true essence and value with, are these fixations. So when a person has a fixation on these things, on ego go, which is a big ego that wants to find embodiment and recognition in the world, and when they have a focus on efficiency and doing, you really get somebody that has not much sense of inner value. Okay, so that's kind of the three in a nutshell, and it ties in very well with later theory. So we've got them as an assertive type, no question about that. They're go-getters, they're efficient. Again, go-getter, right? So that's them. They are the ultimate. The three's the ultimate go-getter. And we see this with pretty much all the threes, okay? You can recognize them by these features. These are the ways to identify the type 3, the core type 3s. What's really driving them? All right, what else do we have? We also have them in the competency triad. This fits very well because competency and efficiency are similar in a sense. There's a focus on doing things right, on objective, measurable success and results. There's a detachment of emotion. They focus on getting the job done. So competency, absolutely, that makes perfect sense as well. All right. And there's other triads that they'll come back to me as I talk more, but let's just review everything we've got. We have, I just remembered. The other triads, of course, we have the relating triad. So, the 3, 6, 9 are in the primary triangle there in the Enneagram. So the three, they are considered, some people call this relating, the relating or primary types. How does this tie into Ichazo's vision of the three? This one doesn't tie in quite as well, in my opinion, but it does tie into vanity, which is about recognition and deception and what people see. It's about creating something for other people, basically. It's which feels very, relating triad, right? It's about, core values and essential conventions, basically. The three is a conventional type. They're conformist. They're on the more conformist side. They like to blend into a system, and they like to come up with a product that's marketable, and they're very good at it. All of these, fixations and preoccupations that the types have, they end up being the strengths of the type often, and the weaknesses too. That's what slows them down. But the threes often are very high achievers. They're very effective. They tend to be efficient. They have a strong ego. They seem to have self-confidence. If you don't necessarily know them that well, they come across as very good socially, smooth, presentable, not with too many rough edges. They're really pretty impressive people, and it's because of their fixation, these deeper fixations on, again, vanity and deception, trading a false self. This little mask, that's the three, right? They have a mask instead of the emptiness or the ugliness or the sadness or whatever the deficient feelings inside are. They cover it up with an image of success, of efficiency, of being a taskmaster and getting things done and not getting lost in that existential crisis that really is within them, that is kind of that inner black hole. They have an empty heart. They're in the heart triad. That is persistent, known as relations in Ichazo, but the heart triad, the emotional triad, it's about relating to other people. And the 3, they try to get love in this way. Because they're in relations, because they're in the heart triad, that they're doing these things to get a sense of value and love from other people. So what you get is you get somebody who's doing all kinds of crazy things, like everything you could think of, high performance, high achievement, task mastering stuff, career, over the top, performance, achievement, everything you think of, it's 3. And they're doing it because they just want to be loved, right? They want to relate to people. So it's kind of a twisted way they go about this. All 3 of all 3 of the heart types in Ichazo's world were relation types, but all 3 of the heart types, the feeling types, are focused on getting that sense of love and inner recognition from other people. They're just not acknowledging it in a balanced way. So when you see a 3 that's up there on stage or in the meeting, giving a presentation or giving a performance in the orchestra, whatever you have, think inside there that they're just a child that's looking for recognition from their parents. And then as they grow up, they want to get it from other people. They want to feel loved. Of course, the instinct is going to shape that as the particular, where the distortion is. Obviously, if they're self-preservation, they are hoping to get something to take care of their well-being in return, and tend to be the more entrepreneurial form of 3s, business people, and really want to be professional and want to be taken care of and get that, in Naranjo's word, quote-unquote, security subtype. And we could go around like that through all of the iterations. It would work just fine. Everything ties together in the Enneagram, but you do need to study it, that's why I do it. That's why I've done it, is so I can find the connections, so that people can look at this thing and say, oh yeah, it does tie together here. There's a few contradictory things here. There's a few strands that, conflict, but overall you can see where it started, how it disseminated, how people built off of it, and how it developed over time. So yeah, that's the 3 in a nutshell. The ego go to review. They're go-getters, right? Over efficient, they focus on the efficiency. And there's one more aspect I wanted to address here before I forget, which is that Ichazo explains that, as is true with all of the over X for each type, the over efficiency of the 3, it's self-sabotaging in a way, basically. If you have somebody who's always so focused on doing things efficiently and, doing things, just action, when they're so focused on that, it ends up causing problems for them. They don't really do it. It's like they sit around trying to figure out, how to be efficient, and they end up like screwing things up in the process. Like they'll try too hard. They're kind of the ultimate try too hard type. Like my dad's a type 3, and sometimes they're famous for like screwing small things up, at the last minute, like totally self-sabotaging because they're trying too hard. Growing up, my dad, we were in the mall once, and they had this golf club thing. It's this heavy golf club that's supposed to, help your swing. It's super heavy, and you can swing it, and you just practice your swing with it. You don't hit a ball. You can get a ball that's velcroed on to it to simulate it. It was called the Momentum. And anyway, we tried it out when we were a kid, and my dad was, super successful, like classic type 3, with the golf skills and habits and everything to prove it. But, the 3s can really screw things up, and his hands get sweaty. And anyway, long story short, he swung it and it flew out of his hands, and it went up in the mall like this through the air, and it smashed a glass, one of those glass panels along the railing, Okay, so that was kind of a classic, like, I'm trying so hard to do this right and to be efficient, and then at the last minute, I screwed up, right? Totally destroyed. And then what did he do? He pretty much got out of there, which threes are like, oh, well, nothing to see here. I'm just going to pretend like nothing happened, try to cover up my mistakes and hightail it out of there. And that's kind of the way threes are. It's like when things don't work and someone starts to catch on to them, they just disappear. That's the ego go. They can be very evasive, and they figure if they're always in motion, then they're never going to have to slow down and deal with their emotions or their inner deficiency or the fact that they're cutting corners or doing all of the things that we find threes doing. So the ego go, also serves to keep them, from being discovered in a way, or to keep them from having to deal with that reality, with the reality of who they are, that they aren't who they appear to be, and that they're overcompensating for like a hollow heart and an emptiness inside them. And you can see how the three manifests from those core underlying, the ego X and the over X from Machazo, the deception, the vanity, the display. They're called the displayer. It's about what you see, to a three, especially when they're unhealthy, them looking good is equally, is more important than them actually doing good. Its appearance would be fine. They could be a mass murderer, and they would be okay to conceal that, and they would be okay to repress that. I'm exaggerating with mass murderer, but they could be really a horrendous, immoral person doing awful things, and they would be surprisingly okay with it, and they would be motivated as long as other people didn't know about it, and other people saw this smooth professional image on the surface and saw them as an achiever. So they very much are an image type. They're extremely image focused in terms of their reputation, what people think of them. They tend to worry more about people finding out about things they've done or things that are off about them. Of course, it's less with the self-preservation subtype, with the social in particular, the sexual as well, I believe, but the social even more so. They're very, very fearful of their reputation falling apart, and they can be desperate people. They can become very isolated once they start to trade out the false self for this fake self that they've come up with for social climbing and career and success and efficiency and vanity. It becomes this cycle, and you can see all of these things. It just becomes a vortex for them, and they lose touch with who they even are. They just become human doings, and they're doing bad things, and they're serving an image that's false, and they feel like it's too late to turn back, as they go down the levels. Now, all of that being said, let's focus on them when they're healthy as well, because that's super important. It's always good to look at both sides of, both ends of the spectrum of level of health. And when they're healthy, they are incredible people. I mean, they will deal with adversity well. They will be honorable. They will set an amazing example for others. They will have integrity. Given their situation, they will be able to do the honorable right thing. They will be able to admit when they're wrong. They'll be honest about their faults. Their admirable traits just go on and on. On top of that, they tend to do and achieve to a very high standard. They take themselves seriously and they take their goals seriously. So you're going to get people who are very successful, and they ultimately can be very benevolent. They want to share that success with others. I mean, if you were, making a lot of money or very successful and had prestige, status, connections, and you were feeling good about it, you would want to share that. And the healthier threes are like that. They understand that they're not that special. They're just another person, right? And they've managed to do well. They've gotten lucky, right? They often see it that they were fortunate, that they were dealt a good hand and they were lucky, and they're very humble and gracious about it. And they would be happy to share it with other people. So, that's kind of the healthy three. You see them giving away their talents, helping others, teaching, sharing, providing for people, providing a role model. I mean, the list just goes on and on. They can be amazing leaders. They can be incredibly profound people when they're healthy. And then you can see also in the disintegration, they can be total monsters and unable to face themselves. That's probably what's scariest about the disintegrated three, is they can't face who they really are. They're even running away from themselves. All right, so that's the short version. I guess it's actually pretty long, but I wanted to talk about the underlying, stuff from Ichazo. I don't want to just talk about later RNH or whatever. I want to talk about different authors and connecting them, starting with Ichazo, because that's the modern Enneagram right there. Unless you want to go back to Gurdjieff, which we also get Vanity and Deception. We also get Heart Triad. We get those from Gurdjieff. Okay, so remember that. This stuff started before, the last decade or two or three. It started first in the 50s, and then you go back another 100 years to Gurdjieff's time in the 1800s. So that's where this stuff started. If you want to go back even farther, you go back to Pythagoras and you study, you go back another 100 years, you study the Enneagram as a cosmology. You can kind of trace it back, and you have to do some filling in of the gaps, but there's a lot of depth there. All right, thanks for watching. My name is James. I'm a type 8, and I'm just teaching the Enneagram here. So next time we'll cover a different type. All right, thanks for watching. Take care.